The US is a war economy, and when Biden sends billions and billions and billions of dollars to Ukraine to supposedly help the Ukrainians, what he's doing is sending it to the US weapons industry. And that's what's happening before our eyes. The US is a war economy, and it has to have war. It's a capitalist, it's in end-stage capitalism, and it has to have war to keep going, to keep its economy going. We in Australia are sort of heading that way too. We've gotten rid of different industries in Australia, and we are, with the help of the US, developing more weapons industry and nuclear submarines, etc. So this is, and in the UK it's the same. They have a very big weapons industry there. So the Western capitalist unipolar order, which is something that we're trying to preserve, is all about war. Is all about it, and it's looking more and more like it's going to end in a mushroom cloud. There's this likely chance that there's going to be a mistake, and someone is going to think that they can have a limited nuclear war using these tactical nuclear weapons, and that somehow is going to work out. And the US and people in the Pentagon and clueless Congress people seem to think, this is in the US, seem to think that is possible, to have a nuclear war and for it not to end in the end of all humans on the planet and all non-humans on the planet. Of course, non-humans don't even factor into this whole thing. They're irrelevant because we have a human supremacist notion that we are the most important species on the planet, and all these other species are just here for us to use or to look at. And that attitude is what is creating a situation like this as well, because it all feeds into itself. Anyway, so we have Kamala Harris talking about, obviously it was a gaffe, or she wasn't thinking when she was speaking, but saying that North Korea is a big ally of the US.
So the United States shares a very important relationship, which is an alliance with the Republic of North Korea. And it is an alliance that is strong and enduring.
And then we have Biden calling upon Senator Wachowski, who died in a car accident a month or so ago, asking where she is. Also wandering around on stage at some sort of where he'd just spoken, and wandering around on stage and not knowing how to get off the stage with his arms forward, and looking like someone who has serious dementia. I don't know what kind of drugs they have him on that he's able to string a sentence together sometimes, but obviously very powerful ones.
Mr. President, thank you. At the end of such a momentous event, the word thank you seems kind of inadequate, but for all the millions whose lives will be saved, for the communities where life will be transformed, thank you. So thank you, President Biden, for your outstanding...
Anyway, so I don't know if you've seen that video, but it's not good. So, but we all know he's got cognitive difficulties, and Kamala Harris doesn't have that excuse, but she seems to have trouble sort of delivering speeches and stuff. So anyway, what a couple of prizes those two are, of running the biggest military in the world, and basically having the ability to annihilate everybody. So it just shows that you don't need a president or a vice president to run the country, to run these wars. You just need some very compliant characters, and that are going to do the bidding of the military-industrial complex, the U.S. national security state, and the weapons industry. You just need somebody who's compliant, and that's Biden, that's Kamala Harris, and most of the people in Congress. I mean, these people are really and truly, for want of a better word, insane. They don't realize what they're doing. And I'm not recommending these channels. I'm not recommending one of these channels that I'm going to mention, but if you want to see what's happening with the war in Ukraine, that they're kind of helpful. The one I'm not recommending, but because he's attached to the Duran, is Alexander Mercouris, and the Duran is a right-wing channel. But he actually, by himself, Alexander Mercouris, gives a very good rundown of what is happening in Ukraine and Russia. So check that out. But as I say, I'm not recommending it because they're a right-wing. They're right-wing, and the other channel is the New Atlas, which is actually quite good too. So check that out. There's so many things I could talk about, but I'm just going to mention a few things today. And one of them is that this particular woman, this Iranian woman, who was supposedly killed by Iranian authorities because she wouldn't wear a hijab and she cut her hair or something. She is being used by the US and by Western media, by Western corporate media, and by, shills for the US imperialist state. She's being used, this terrible incident that she was tortured and killed, that's being used by all these various imperialist pushing groups to push a war on Iran. And it's so exhausting. I just think it just went on, and every single celebrity who's a dupe for the Democratic Party, a useful idiot for the Democratic Party, every single one that I saw was pushing something about Mahsa Amini, I think her name is. It's disrespectful to that woman, exploiting her tragic death to push a war on Iran.
Iranians need you. Iranians are protesting the death of Mahsa Amini in government custody due to mandatory hijab laws in most cities in Iran right now.
And so this is the way Western imperialism works. They select an issue, and oftentimes it's engineered. It's sort of or they'll select a real issue or a real sort of grievance, say, in a country, and then they'll exploit it to push a war on that target country. And Iran has always been in the crosshairs of the US, and Israel would be more than happy to see the end of Iran. So and it makes me sad when I see people who should know better, like Roger Waters and Susan Sarandon, sort of also pushing that Mahsa Amini sort of issue. Basically, that's just helping the imperialists get their way, manufacturing consent for an eventual war on Iran. It just keeps that xenophobic thing bubbling along until the day when they can make an excuse. That's next in line: China, Russia, Iran. That's just going to keep on bubbling along with the help of useful idiots in the West and the corporate media. So, apartheid Israel has killed 48 women Palestinians since the beginning of this year.
We support Iranian women. We support you. Israel love you. The women of Israel will always stand with you. We will always remember you, Mahsa. We will never forget you. We will never forget you. Every woman deserves to be free. You are in our hearts.
Where has there been any uproar about that, including the Palestinian journalist, very well-known journalist, Shireen Abu Akleh? She was killed by a sniper, most likely intentionally, and that just faded. There was no mention that it was the IDF had shot her in the head, and that's just one of the 48 different women that have been killed. So it's beyond hypocrisy to see this bringing up this woman and seeing it everywhere, this Iranian woman, seeing it everywhere. It's just so engineered to put out imperialist propaganda. And it's disgusting because it's just using that poor woman, her death, to push for more death in her own country. And just recently, a little boy, he's 7 years old. The IDF came to his parents' door, and he was in the house, and they were looking for his brothers, who apparently they said had stolen something or thrown rocks. No, sorry, it was they'd thrown rocks or something at the IDF, which is all Palestinians have really in this tremendous oppression they suffer underneath this appalling apartheid, worse than apartheid situation. And the little boy ended up he was so petrified at these IDF, who are incredibly brutal when they enter Palestinian homes. It's outrageous. And so he ended up I think he had a heart attack and died. He was only 7 years old, sweet little boy, just one of many, many, many children who were terrorized by the Israeli occupational forces. Where is the outrage over that little boy? Where is the outrage over all these women that have been killed? Where is the outrage over the thousands of Palestinians who have been killed, or the many, many hundreds of children that are terrorized intentionally by the Israeli apartheid state? All the many, many things that you can see in Gaza Fights for Freedom, the film by journalist Abby Martin. You can see it in the 7 programs of the Empire Files, and I'll leave a link to the Empire Files. Look for programs about what's happening in apartheid Israel. It's beyond outrageous. And where is the outrage? Even 3 different human rights groups, B'Tselem, which is an Israeli human rights group, they had put out a report about Israel being an apartheid state and what they're doing to Palestinians. Human Rights Watch, which is often putting out imperialist talking points, for some reason has put out that Israel is an apartheid state, and the same with Amnesty International, which often puts out imperialist talking points about countries. Also very clearly said Israel is an apartheid state. Where is the coverage of that? Where is the coverage in the corporate media about those 3 large human rights organizations saying that? There is none, really. And that tells you everything you need to know about the corporate media. They just manufacture consent for more war. They're part of this end-stage capitalist system, which needs to have war. It needs to go in and invade countries and steal their resources and then privatize everything and leave it in managed chaos with these with these corporations taking over. And it does it over and over and over again. So, as the US has said, the US is going to fight till the last Ukrainian, and that is what's happening right now. Ukraine will be unrecognizable after all of this. NATO is responsible for this situation. Of course, it's bad that Russia invaded Ukraine. I'm against any kind of pushing of war or invasions, but NATO created a existential threat to Russia, and this is what resulted, and they continue to create an existential threat against Russia. Basically, Russia has said that NATO is fighting Russia at this point. NATO, after the coup that overthrew the Ukrainian government, which Biden helped orchestrate in 2014, hasn't been a sovereign country since then. And ever since then, NATO has been training tens of thousands of Ukrainian troops to eventually be ready to fight Russia. And then the idea is to bleed Russia. This is Efi sitting on my lap here. To bleed Russia dry is what the intent of this is. But I don't think it's going to work out that way. And more and more people are going to die. There's about 100,000 Ukrainian soldiers have died now. But there's more, NATO continues to, rather than diplomacy, they have no intentions of having any diplomacy. In fact, they've disrupted peace talks between Ukraine and Russia in April.
There were talks between Ukrainian and Russian negotiators, and they had set plans for a meeting in Turkey to finalize an agreement. But Boris Johnson from the UK came in and basically told Zelensky and said to him that even if you reach an agreement with Russia based on security guarantees from the West, we will not provide you with those security guarantees, basically making any such agreement meaningless. And Zelensky took the orders, and the talks were sabotaged. Now we have, from the American side, confirmation of what was reported in the Ukrainian media, and that comes in the form of Fiona Hill writing in Foreign Affairs that, yes, during that same period, Ukraine and Russia had worked out an agreement where Russia would basically withdraw to its pre-February invasion position, controlling Crimea, and also controlling, or at least having close ties with, the breakaway regions of the Donbass. And also Ukraine would pledge not to join NATO. That was the outline of a peace agreement that Fiona Hill says was reached between Ukraine and Russia. What she omits was what we talked about last time, which is that Boris Johnson did this coming from with U.S. orders, obviously, told Zelensky that the game was off. And so that's why we have still today this war going on.
They purposely did that, and they will continue to do that because the U.S. is creating wars. They don't want the end to any sort of any war that they've helped start. They've helped create with an existential threat to Russia. They have no intentions of that, just like they're doing with China. They want a situation in Taiwan, like is what is happening in Ukraine. And they want a situation in Australia too, my own country. They want to use Australia till the last Australian to fight this coming war on China, and that's the truth. They're already setting it all up here with, they've got a base in Darwin. They've got the Five Eyes, part of the Five Eyes thing, the Pine Gap near Alice Springs, which has been there for decades. I was protesting that back in the 80s. They're setting Australia up to be like Ukraine, and because the US never wants any war on its land, you'll notice that they're always creating situations where they use proxies to fight their wars for them, so that country ends up being destroyed in the process. And that's what they're going to do with Taiwan and with Australia. They're going to use us in this coming war on China. So that's something to look forward to. And of course, our stupid politicians here, even though there's a Labour government in office now, it doesn't matter. They're neoliberals who are US lackeys and will just do the bidding of the US national security state. Ever since Gough Whitlam, who was a Labour Prime Minister, who was actually very good on various issues, free healthcare and all of this, but was against US imperialist wars. Ever since they helped get rid of him, the CIA admitted to it, it's been a neoliberal shit show ever since. And, all these politicians who are careerists don't want to end up like Gough Whitlam, so they do the bidding of the US national security state. If you're, as one of those shills for empire, John Mearsheimer, I think his name is, who goes around drumming up sort of US imperialist propaganda for the world, he said, if you're against the US and their intentions on to China, their saber rattling, then you are an enemy of the US. That's what he actually said explicitly. So anyway, this is what we're doing. I don't know if you've seen my video a couple of videos ago about the 5 tipping points in this climate catastrophe that are virtually they've already tipping over, these tipping points, really major tipping points. And there's another 16 that are coming that are huge and problematic in this climate crisis. What's happening about that? Nothing. Nothing's happening. No, what are we doing? We're trying to blow ourselves up before we go extinct. We're doing that with the help of the US. The US seems to want to see us all go up in a mushroom cloud. If it cannot have full spectrum dominance, then it is going to take us all out. And it reminds me very much of a repeated thing you see where there'll be a male partner of someone who rather than not have what they want to have, they'll kill their partner, the female partner, and the entire family. Kill everybody. This is what this reminds me of. It's like a macro example of a micro thing in domestic violence. And that is patriarchy, isn't it? It's like the US empire sees the whole world as its playground, as its property, and if it cannot have it, no one is going to have it. That's the bottom line. That's patriarchy, that's capitalism, that's toxic gender stereotypes feeds into it. It's speciesism because they don't care about all the non-human animals on the planet. And it's a sort of insanity. I mean, basically, we're stupid little animals. No offense to primates, but a lot of the people that are running the show now are knuckle draggers who are greedy, and that's where we are. We are where we are. causing so much suffering when it doesn't have to be this way at all. It doesn't have to be like this, and yet this is where we are. We should be all coming together to address this climate catastrophe, including going vegan, because one, it's tremendous violence towards most of the planet who are non-human, and two, because it is having a massive impact. Animal agriculture is having this massive, tremendous violence and impact on the planet, on the climate crisis. Who's saying anything about that? That we need to go vegan? Who on the left is talking about going vegan? Very, very, very few. I don't even know who is anymore, apart from myself. Vanguard, I'm not a fan of that channel particularly, because they seem to do a lot of TMZ type stuff about who said this and who said that, and you know, I don't know, but they actually brought up veganism. I had a little debate about it, which I'm going to actually pass. I'm going to discuss what they were saying, because there was problems with it, but at least somebody's talking about it. I find it a tremendous disappointment that most of the left, and it doesn't matter how many times I talk about it on this channel, I still get people shuffling their feet and twiddling their fingers and saying, yeah, that's terrible, but still not doing anything. I don't understand the reluctance to embrace veganism. It's a win-win for everybody. But anyway, that's all I'm going to say at the moment. I'll probably do a passing of this vegan debate that the Vanguard had soon, and I'll post that shortly when I do it. So thanks for watching. My name's Trish Roberts. You're watching Faint Signals from Vega. Never give up. Don't stop pushing against imperialist narratives. I am basically shadow banned on social media. I can post stuff in the comments section, and then I log in on another username and I have a look, and I cannot even see my comment at this point, and that includes Twitter, that includes YouTube. It doesn't even matter now what I talk about, whether it's about US imperialism or I'm making a comment on somebody's channel that is not about that. I cannot see my comments anymore. So Twitter, YouTube, I deleted Facebook because that was happening there. So I'm basically out of the town square and a pariah at this point. And on my own YouTube channel, barely anybody sees what I post here, except for a handful of people. But still, you've just got to keep doing it anyway, even though I'm pretty much completely silenced in that regard. So anyway, never stop talking about this issue. Never stop talking to people who are confused and have bought all the stuff about Iran, or bought all the stuff about the targets of empire, all the awful propaganda. Because if we give up, then we're basically inviting the end. And so many countries now are becoming fascist. They've got fascist leaders, like the recent election of I think her name's Meloni, is it? I can't remember her name. I think it's Meloni or something like that. The Italian fascist that's got into office, who praises Mussolini. That's fabulous. So there's more and more of that happening in the world. So that's not great, because that leads to more wars, and it's not looking good. I have to say, it's not looking good. So we just have to, do what we can, and also enjoy life, because every moment is precious, particularly when you see all the insane people running the show. Every moment is precious, so let's also embrace the preciousness of life, the lovely things around us, and also go vegan, because non-human animals are not our property. Okay, so thanks for watching. Till next time. Bye for now.